Hello everyone and welcome to the very first episode of Airports from Hell. In this series we will attempt to land at some of the most dangerous and remote airports in the world. To land safely at these airports you need to be on top of your game and have a lot of flying experience under your belt. These places are definitely not for the casual and faint-hearted pilots. For this episode we are going to try and land at Saba Airport, which is located on a very small island near St. Maarten, which is also a very famous airport. The airfield has gained its notoriety because of its very short runway, the shortest commercial runway on the entire planet. The aircraft that we are using today, as you can see on the screen, is the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan, which is quite a big airplane compared to the runway at Saba. I didn't want to take the Beechcraft 350 because that's just too big and too fast for my liking, and quite frankly, next to impossible to land on such a small patch of concrete. And believe me, I've tried. But airplanes like the Cessna 152 and Piper Cub seemed a little bit too slow, which would make it super easy to land here. And there's no fun in that either, so that's why I ended up with the Grand Caravan, which is a nice middle ground. So guys, without further ado, let's try and land at Saba without going for a swim, of course. So as you can see, at the moment we are parked at the airport of Saba, and I'll just show you guys what we are dealing with today. So for starters, the runway is very short. As you can see, it fits quite nicely on my screen without having to zoom out quite a lot. But the short runway isn't the only thing that makes this airport so treacherous, because as you can see, if you're not able to land and stop the aircraft on time, you will probably go for a swim because uh, the airport is surrounded by water, as you can see. So yeah, this puts quite a lot of pressure on you when landing an aircraft at this airport. And due to the hill right next to the airport, it can also be quite windy, and also because it's in open sea. So yeah, these are all factors that make landing and taking off at this airport quite tricky sometimes. Now today I don't think there's a lot of wind, so we should be okay uh, in that respect, but we still have to deal with the very short runway today. So yeah, what we are going to do today is we are going to fly a small circuit around the airport. So we are both going to take off and land at this airport. And takeoff is pretty straightforward, not really that difficult. But the landing on the other hand is quite challenging, so that's going to be the interesting part. But yeah, we're now going to jump into the flight deck and start up the aircraft, and then we'll taxi to the runway. And hopefully we'll succeed in landing this back at the same airport. So here we are inside the cockpit of the Grand Caravan. I'm just quickly going to start it up. There we go. The engine is now starting. That's great to hear. So let's check real quickly where the wind is coming from, because at an airport like this you obviously don't want to waste any runway. So the wind is coming from 260 degrees, 270 degrees. So that means we will take off on that runway right there. And so I guess we'll also land at that runway. So what we'll do is we'll take off in that direction, make a right turn, and then come back to the same runway we took off from. So as you can see, the engine has started successfully. So we can turn on the pilot feed, everything else can be set. Very important one is the flaps. We shouldn't forget those because otherwise you'll definitely not make it in the air on time. And yeah, now we need to taxi to the runway, but if landing at this airport wasn't hard enough already, taxiing to the runway can also be a bit of a challenge because there's not much room. And so yeah, let's hope we don't go off this cliff right here. Parking brake can be released. And I'm just gonna hold down the left toe brake for the differential braking. So we can now turn on the taxi light as well because we're not blinding anyone. And there we go. We turned the aircraft successfully. So all the other lights can go on as well now. Clear to the left and clear to the right. So we really don't want to waste any of this runway, so we're gonna make this turn really slowly. There we go, that should be good. We can set the parking brake for a second. Make sure that everything's where it should be. So I'm just going to sync the heading buck with the current runway heading, which is 30 degrees approximately. Okay, so here we go, guys. Parking brake can be released again, but I'm gonna hold down the brakes until the engine is up to full throttle. There we go. Once we reach 70 knots, we can rotate. Okay, so we rotated a little bit before 70 because obviously we're using flaps, so immediately going to reduce the thrust so that we don't redline the engine. And the flaps can be retracted now. Probably going to level off at 1000 feet or so. which is a good traffic pattern altitude. There we go, we can level off now. And also reduce the thrust quite a lot. And we'll start to make our right turn. So there we go, we can see the airport again and the runway. Okay, so now we'll start to head back towards the airport and we'll also start to slow down now. First notch of flaps. And second notch of flaps. Quite early, but that's okay. Here's the runway in sight. So as soon as we land on the runway, I'm gonna basically put the brakes, put the pedal to the metal on the brakes, then immediately engage thrust reversers. But I don't think we'll be okay. Maybe we'll have a bit of runway to spare. So yeah, I'm gonna keep decelerating until we're right at the edge of the stall speed. Keep trimming the aircraft, of course. Oh boy. Okay, here we are. So guys, that was quite interesting. For a second there, I thought we would not be able to stop in time because I kind of floated the aircraft. But you know, I didn't want to go around because I knew this aircraft can really stop on a dime almost, so yeah. And now we did have quite a soft landing, so that's nice. And as you can see, we still have quite some runway to spare, so it wasn't really that difficult. But add some wind at this aircraft and that definitely makes it a lot more difficult. Landing lights and strobe lights can go back off now, and also the taxi light. And we're just gonna park at the same place where we left off, which is right in front of these two guys right here. There we go. Parking brake is set and the engine can be turned off. Flaps can go up. So there we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Airports from Hell. If you have any other extreme airports or dangerous airports that you would like to have featured in this series, you can always put them in the comment section below, along with some questions regarding aviation or my channel. Besides YouTube, I also have an Instagram account where I post a lot of nice uh, flight sim screenshots almost every day. So if you haven't followed me there yet, definitely be sure to do that as well. And yeah, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel as well, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.